So you're representing Detective Berkowitz?
Well, actually, I am the attorney for the Silver State Public Safety Association, which is the IUPA charter with which the NCLEA is affiliated. And it was for that reason that I was brought in and felt it necessary to hold this press conference. As some of you may know, I actually used to represent Sheriff DeMeo. About 30 days ago, I called him and told him that I was switching teams, and he was very good-natured about it. We had a very good laugh over it. I had sort of hoped not to have to appear in any official capacity through the remainder of his term, but unfortunately, events being what they are, I felt it was necessary to hold this press conference, primarily to dispel a lot of false statements and false rumors that have been circulating ever since the arrest of Assistant Sheriff Rick Marshall. And I think it's important to dispel these rumors in order to install public confidence in the deputies here in Nye County. And so I wanted to address some of the issues. One of the things we have done is release civilian video from the victim, Stephen Lee. You can all review it yourself. But if you take a look at that video at approximately the 3-minute mark, it does appear to show the assistant sheriff, contrary to the claims that he found signs in the road, it does appear to show him deliberately removing the signs and actually crouching down and looking each way before he does it. I'll let you review the video and draw your own conclusions. But there have been a number of statements relating to the circumstances of the stop and the manner in which the deputies conducted themselves, which have called into question their professionalism, and we want to dispel those questions right here and right now. You will see on one of the other videos that contrary to some of the claims that have been made that the occupants of the vehicle were in fear for their life or thought they were going to be shot, you'll see Mr. Gully relaxing, almost lounging against the back of the pickup truck, talking to the deputies. You'll also see a very relaxed atmosphere while the deputies were questioning Mr. Gully and the assistant sheriff before making their determination that they did in fact have probable cause to effect the arrest.
The Sheriff's Department makes it seem that Detective Berkowitz went overboard. What is your reaction to that?
Well, I think the sheriff has actually taken a very measured approach, a sort of a wait-and-see approach, and he's going to let the district attorney and very possibly the Attorney General's office at the discretion of the district attorney conduct the full investigation into that.
Could you, in a sense, narrate for us what you've seen in the video regarding the arrest from the civilian? What does it show?
Well, it basically shows is there's actually 3 videos, I believe, on the disc that's handed out. The first one shows the actual crime being committed. The second is, and again, you have to understand, this is civilian video. The department does have dash cam video, which is not under our control. We would like released, and that's within the discretion of the sheriff and the department, and the district attorney or whoever else makes those decisions. But the civilian video shows them questioning the assistant sheriff and Mr. Gully, and clearly, things might have gone differently if they had acknowledged the fact that they had stolen the signs. Maybe they would have gotten a citation. They do not appear to have been honest with the deputies on the scene, and, quite frankly, didn't tell the truth.
They appear to be resisting, right? They appear to be resisting on the video as well. Right?
The video does show, obviously not a great angle because the deputy's body is positioned in a way, but you can see them attempt to put the assistant sheriff into the car, and you can sort of see the door fly open as it was kicked once or twice. I'll let you draw your own conclusions from the video. What my interest is in protecting the integrity of the deputies and the public confidence in the deputies. So my job is not to dictate an outcome. That is going to be determined by the district attorney and or the Attorney General's office, depending upon what Mr. Coonsey decides to do with it. That's not for us to decide. However, it is my job and my responsibility to make sure that the deputies are protected and that public confidence in the deputies for the citizens here in Nye County, is maintained.
What is your reaction to Detective Berkowitz reportedly being placed on admin leave and then that being rescinded?
Well, I do need to address that. It is unfortunate this occurred while the sheriff was out of the country. The sheriff did properly ask, as he indicated in his press conference, so that some surface level fact-finding occur. Unfortunately, somebody in carrying out those instructions from the sheriff went overboard. Whether it was at the direction of the assistant sheriff or somebody working for him, we do not know. However, the reason I scheduled this press conference originally was I was informed on Monday and shown that an illegal search warrant for Detective Berukowitz was obtained. That illegal warrant was promptly rescinded. Detective Berukowitz was given an illegal gag order, nothing in connection with any investigation, by Lieutenant Medina.
Okay.
I immediately brought it to the attention of Sheriff DeMayo, and to his credit, Sheriff DeMayo immediately intervened, lifted the gag order, and immediately reinstated Detective Berukowitz
And the search
to duty.
warrant was also asking for his personal cell phone. And
It was rescinded. And I do want to,
After they took it.
no, they did not take it, they did not get access
Okay.
to it.
Can you talk about the gag orders in effect to the other deputies? Are they allowed to speak about this incident, or what's?
I have not been notified that any other deputy has been given any other instruction on that subject. When I saw what I call an illegal gag order, it was not an order not to talk about a particular investigation. It was a blanket order that he could not talk to any other sworn personnel or civilians who had any involvement in the arrest incident. It wasn't directed or related to any investigation. And again, I have to emphasize and thank Sheriff DeMayo for his prompt intervention in removing that gag order and returning Detective Berukowitz to duty.
Can you talk about felony stop for petite larceny and what hole that left in our grid here?
Well, I don't believe there's an evidence of a felony stop. What you had was a crime in progress. The deputies responded to a report of a crime in progress and pulled the car over. I think when you look at the video, you'll see a very, very relaxed atmosphere while the deputies interviewed both Mr. Gully and the assistant sheriff in making their determination of probable cause.
What about the allegations that there were 6 deputies that responded to a call that essentially could have been handled by one?
Unfortunately, when a law enforcement officer is put in a position of having to potentially arrest one of his supervisors, it is in the best interest of that officer to have multiple witnesses there so they're not placed in the jeopardy position of having it be their word versus the word of their supervisor, who of course has control over their careers. And in fact, it's my understanding that one of the reasons as to the number of units responding was they wanted to have one or more units that had dash cams on it available so as to protect the integrity of the scene and protect against the sort of false statements that eventually were made with regard to the incident.
Regarding the dash cam video, what call would you have for the sheriff's office or the district attorney's office to release that dash cam video and dispel, basically to show clearly what happened? That dash cam video.
That's not within my control or the control of Silver State or the NCLEA. That's up to...
What appeal would you like to make for them to do that?
I'm not going to tell the district attorney how to conduct an investigation. He's more than capable of determining if and when that should be released. However, I would say that we would like it released, but when and how that's done is up to him.
Can you talk about the supervisor being notified or not being notified about this incident?
The underlying investigation was known to the sergeant on duty. Because it was a crime in progress, the stop had to be made, and then once the arrest was effectuated, then the lieutenant, I believe it was Lieutenant Jarvis, was informed.
Sheriff DeMayo said yesterday that he has video footage of Detective Berukowitz meeting with Stephen Lee prior to this event at the store, and received that video from the.
There is nothing unusual about a detective meeting with a victim of a crime. Mr. Lee had suspected for some time his signs were being stolen. It just so happens he managed to catch the assistant sheriff, he claims, in the act, and I'll let you draw your own conclusions from the video as to whether that representation is accurate.
Have your clients expressed how this has affected the working environment inside the sheriff's office?
Well, obviously, things escalated with the illegal search warrant and the gag order, and again, I do have to give Sheriff DeMayo credit for his leadership in immediately intervening upon his return. It's unfortunate this happened while he was on vacation, but I got to give him credit for taking control of the situation as it relates to sort of what's going on inside the sheriff's office.
How concerned are you that Assistant Sheriff Marshall was never placed on any sort of leave, that he's effectively still in the department with access to
Back when I represented Sheriff DeMayo, I was a very strong advocate of the sheriff's discretion in making these sorts of decisions. It wouldn't be proper for me now that I have switched teams to deviate from that position.
But what kind of hold do you think that affects with the citizens and their trust in law enforcement?
Well, I think the trust in law enforcement issue is the reason that we feel and that we had to release this civilian video. It is very important that the citizens of Nye County have complete trust in their deputies, as well as any person who is going to be running for the elected position of sheriff.
How would you dispel the perceived favoritism of the arrest of Assistant Rick Marshall and then essentially letting him go, and then he goes back on duty?
Well, I think the sheriff has taken I can't speak for him, as I no longer represent him, but I think he's taken more of a hands-off approach, and he's going to let either the district attorney or, in the district attorney's discretion, the attorney general's office conduct that investigation. At the end of the day, I'm confident the proper decisions will be made based upon the evidence, not rumor, not favoritism, or any other, improper
The
factor.
sheriff has said that he's having an independent investigation done on the actual stop from an outside agency.
I have no reason to believe that that's not accurate.
The Attorney General has said that they've already been contacted by the DA. What is the resolution that you and your clients would like to see?
Again, I don't want to interfere in the proper process. We're not here to manipulate the process. We're here, and the reason I called this press conference was to get the truth out and restore the public confidence in the actual sheriff's deputies.
So no recourse. Your agency or your clients don't necessarily want to see any recourse?
I'm sure that individual deputies have their own feelings as to what should happen, but at this point, I think the prudent response, much like the sheriff has taken, is to take a step back, to not inflame the situation, and let the independent investigation go forward.
Can you talk about the sheriff's allegations yesterday that the initial phone calls on this arrest or pullover was done by cell phone and not called into the sheriff's department?
Again, when you are facing a situation where a supervisory law enforcement officer is a suspect in a crime, common sense says that the last thing you want to do is be talking about it over the radio where the suspect's going to have access to it.
And then the sheriff also commented that the sergeant was not alerted as to what was happening at the time.
It is our understanding the sergeant was aware of the investigation. The arrest, of course, happened relatively quickly because it was a crime in progress.
The sheriff also read some stipulations for how a detective becomes involved in a case, and it's not typical for a case like this, he says.
I would say that any time you have an assistant sheriff involved in an allegation of criminal wrongdoing, nothing is typical.
What message would you have for the people here in Nye County of just the integrity of the deputies and making sure that the deputies, the message that the deputies are, this department goes on, the business goes on, and that protection goes on?
I think the video will probably restore the public confidence better than anything I could say. You will see how professionally they handled themselves in the video, and these allegations of being out of control, threats of shooting, and all of the other, quite frankly, nonsense that has been spewed in connection with the political spin on this incident is just that. It's nonsense, and I think the citizens can be proud of their deputies. Does anybody else have any questions? Sir?
I sent an email to the governor and the attorney general last week because of not just this event, but other events taking place in Nye County, requesting that the attorney general form a grand jury to investigate all the shenanigans that go on down here. Do you have any knowledge of any response from the attorney general?
No, unfortunately, the Attorney General and I, aren't on a first-name basis. We don't correspond. That's sort of beyond the scope of my involvement on behalf of Silver State Public Safety Association and the NCLEA.
Is there any video from whenever Assistant Sheriff Marshall was booked?
I do not know that. I'm not familiar with the booking procedures at the jail.
Have you been able to speak to Ben Gully?
I have not spoken to either Assistant Sheriff Marshall or Ben Gully. My role is to respond to what the association believes are some false statements that have been placed in the media for political reasons. If that's it,
That's it?
Bob can't pronounce. We've been hearing that pronunciation. David Brushewitz. David, and you know that from speaking to.
I believe it's a hard C.
I hear a few different versions during the press conference. Just want to clear that up.
It's not pronounced like the son of Sam, no.
Yeah, we did hear Berkowitz earlier. I just want to be.
I actually don't care. I know.